Trump claims there are no U.S. weapon shortages, but the way recent clashes have been fought suggests growing pressure on stocks tells a different story. U.S. air defenses in the Middle East are reportedly intercepting Iranian threats selectively, rather than engaging every missile and drone heading toward Allied territory. Field commanders are choosing carefully when to fire in order to conserve costly interceptor missiles and avoid running down already strained stockpiles. This ammo-saving strategy deliberately allows some missiles and drones to hit low-value targets so that limited defensive firepower is reserved for higher-risk attacks. U.S. air defenses in the Middle East are no longer attempting to stop every Iranian missile or drone, shifting to a more selective interception posture. Commanders are practicing selective interception specifically to preserve limited stocks of expensive interceptor missiles. The policy prioritizes threats that could hit U.S. personnel, critical facilities, or key Allied targets, rather than every incoming munition. If a missile or drone is headed for an empty area or an abandoned building, interceptors may be withheld to save ammunition. This approach has reportedly been used since the early days of the war against Iran, becoming a routine part of air defense planning. Such ammunition conservation practices are common in many militaries, but in this conflict they carry extra weight given the scale and duration of combat. The war is now in its 5th month, and concerns about U.S. ammunition and interceptor levels are steadily growing. One consequence is that some Iranian missiles and drones are still able to reach their targets instead of being shot down. In most such cases, these impacts occur at low-value sites or locations where no U.S. personnel are present. Officials say that in some instances bases were deliberately left to be hit when empty of troops, to conserve interceptors for more dangerous attacks. This marks a change from earlier practice, when almost all threats near U.S. sites were engaged whenever possible. Senior officials say they cannot fully confirm whether any unintercepted munitions have caused casualties under this approach. They acknowledge that the strategy carries real risks even as it helps save high-end interceptor missiles for critical engagements. Since the war began on February 28, U.S. bases across the region have suffered heavy damage from repeated Iranian attacks. U.S. Navy headquarters in Bahrain and Army facilities in Kuwait are among the hardest-hit sites in the current campaign. Reports also describe damage and casualties at American-linked facilities in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Iraq have likewise seen U.S. sites struck during Iranian missile and drone barrages. Preliminary estimates suggest that repairing and rebuilding damaged facilities across the region will cost billions of dollars. Donald Trump rejected reports claiming the U.S. was running low on munitions during the conflict, dismissing the assessments as inaccurate. Trump said the United States possessed far more munitions than any other country and more than it currently required. Earlier, The Wall Street Journal reported General Dan Kane had warned senior officials about declining U.S. air defense interceptor stockpiles. Meanwhile, Qatar and Oman discussed diplomatic efforts aimed at implementing the recently announced U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding. Qatar urged all parties to pursue dialogue and safeguard freedom of navigation through the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. As diplomatic contacts resumed, Al Arabiya reported China worked with Pakistan to help revive U.S.-Iran negotiations. Axios reported that CENTCOM chief Brad Cooper also urged ending strikes around Hormuz after the campaign had reached its objectives. According to Axios, Cooper assessed that the operation had significantly degraded Iran's ability to conduct maritime attacks. Cooper reportedly said most designated military targets had already been exhausted during Operation Epic Fury, Axios reported. Without launching a broader new offensive, Cooper reportedly concluded that extending the bombing campaign would serve no meaningful military purpose, Axios reported. The Strait of Hormuz remains the biggest flashpoint in the escalating confrontation between America and Iran, with tensions continuing to rise by the day. On July 26, the IRGC Navy claimed that 6 vessels were prevented from crossing the Strait of Hormuz during a fresh maritime operation. The IRGC further alleged that the halted vessels were issued a firm warning before being forced to remain anchored in the strategic waterway. This came as a senior Iranian official declared that the Strait of Hormuz remains firmly under the complete control of the IRGC Navy. An Iranian parliament member boldly claimed that the Strait of Hormuz would remain under Iran's control forever, regardless of outside pressure. Aliuddin Borujerdi also asserted that the Bab al-Mandab Strait would continue to remain under Yemeni control despite mounting regional tensions. Iran and America's Arab ally Oman held fresh discussions on July 25 over shipping security and maritime movement through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign ministry revealed that the discussions with Oman were constructive, adding that both sides made measurable progress during the latest round of talks. The Iran foreign ministry said, and I quote, "The two sides exchanged views on common principles and operational mechanisms for managing the safe passage of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz while respecting the sovereign rights of the two coastal states. The talks were useful and progress was made, and technical and political consultations between the two sides will continue. At present, there has been no change in the status of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz." End quote. Iran and Oman reportedly focused their discussions on reopening the Strait of Hormuz for uninterrupted commercial shipping and regional trade. However, the negotiations remain inconclusive despite Omani officials traveling to Iran on July 25 for the high-level consultations. On the very same day, Donald Trump reportedly ordered a complete halt to any further strikes being carried out by US forces. Earlier, on July 19, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi described the Strait of Hormuz as Tehran's own atomic bomb in a stark warning. Meanwhile, Iran and the United States have reportedly restarted secret negotiations to end the ongoing war.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.